But she is awesome. I love her to death. She says death would be preferable.
Is she standing behind you right now, or what's going on?
She is, with a baseball bat. Every podcast, she stands behind him. You always know when she gives him that glare because he says, "Yeah, my wife, she's a wonderful woman." And then you hear a sigh of relief, and then you hear a door close, and then everything goes back to normal.
For another night.
You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast with Dex and Mac. I got mouths to feed, so let's get this thing started. Time is money, friend.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Azeroth. You're listening to the Goblin Goldcast, your guide to making gold in World of Warcraft. This is episode 55. I'm your host, Dex, coming to you from Napa, California. With me on Skype is a man who always loses to his computer at chess, so he decided to switch to kickboxing, and now things are different. My co-host, Mac, from Anchorage, Alaska. How you doing, Mac?
I'm doing pretty good. Of course, my screen will never be the same.
Well, we have to make these sacrifices from time to time.
Yeah, I've sacrificed a few keyboards over the years with, they don't like to drink with me.
Well, as most of you know, this week we're going to be doing part 2 of our interview with the host from Lagging Balls, a great podcast that we definitely recommend that you check out.
Just make sure your kids have their earphones on, ears plugged. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not really a safe for work podcast or safe for children, but what are you going to do? But funny nonetheless. Definitely. Awesome. Definitely worth giving a listen to. So joining us on the show this week is Thist from the podcast Lagging Balls. How's it going?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that would be it.
Really
You're
great.
Thist, right?
Yeah, well, that's my name. I was just making sure I was the one you were talking to. Yes, I'm great. How are you? We're
doing well. I think we made it through the first interview with your co-host, and he did let us know that the interview with him did not prepare us in any way to deal with you.
He was right, and I'm sorry in advance.
All right, well,
I have to say that to him every show.
Here we go.
Hey, you got to cover your bases, right?
It's like my honeymoon,
With each other, or?
See, now that's not for general consumption.
I'm sorry.
Keeping that on the down low.
Sorry, that's private. You're right.
Well, thanks for giving us the interview. Why don't we start out by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what kind of small animals you like to torture, where you're from, etc.
Well, I'm Canadian, so I don't like to torture anybody, but I'm from Canada.
Canada?
Yes. Ontario.
A little farther south than me, yeah.
I was raised...
She's one of the Southerners. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no.
You're a Southerner? He's an Alaskan, so you're a Southerner.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
See, I just always considered myself Northern, so... That's geography humor, unless I'm wrong, in which case I sound stupid.
Geography.
Okay, good. But yeah, no, I was raised in an igloo on an ice floe. I was always... getting a little bit smaller, and eventually my mom kicked me out of the igloo because there wasn't enough room on the ice floe anymore for
the global warming thing.
Exactly. It's real. It's happening. I saw it my whole life. But yeah, I'm Thist. I do a podcast called Lagging Balls. It's weekly. It's kind of not safe for work, but it's real great, and you probably would like it. Hopefully.
There we go.
Absolutely, and again,
plug the kids' ears. Yeah.
In case you didn't notice, not safe for work.
It's not.
So, she has, however, promised to be on her best behavior on our show that we try to keep PG-13.
And you guys, it's really hard. So hard. Like I'm telling you.
I get told that. Every woman that I talk to tells me that.
Really? Are you sure you're talking to women, or?
I think it was a woman.
Okay.
It was. See, you never know today, though. I'm not going to say.
It doesn't 100%. Even matter anymore, really.
Is there really any gender any longer? I mean, do we really have gender?
No.
This is turning into a completely different show.
It is. Let's continue now. Okay.
You're up, Mac. Say something. Save me. Help me.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, This, why don't you tell us the story of when you first got playing? Holy cow! I can't even talk.
Toast. Question number 1, and you're done.
Oh, why don't you tell us a story about when you first started playing WoW? When was it? Who got you started? What was your first character, race, and class? And why?
Okay, I love that story. So I first started playing WoW in vanilla. Yes, I'm a vanilla player. How's it going? So that was what, 2005 or something? 2004-ish, 2005-ish, yeah, something like that.
We were still playing another MMO at that time, but yeah.
It was before our time, but yeah.
Got it.
Making us feel young.
Yeah, he's not used to that feeling at all.
Oh.
But,
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Speaking of which, this is the first time Dex is hearing this. Grandchild number 8 is on the way.
Wait,
Wow.
You're a grandfather?
8 times over.
It'll be 8 times over.
I thought you listened to the show.
I mean, I do, but
You told us in the pre-interview that, you guys are like,
I have,
listen to
but
you all the time. And
for whatever reason, that really important detail escaped me. It's interesting.
his grandkids are my kids' age.
So you're like, kind of like Soldier 76, right?
Of course, his oldest is still older than my oldest. So
Okay.
Sure.
You referenced a Blizzard game that I don't play, so I didn't get that for a second, but I get it now.
So how are you guys dealing with like the whole daddy granddaddy phenomenon going on lately? It's like nobody wants like your standard like young-ish looking dude with no kids. Like all the women are after like dad bods, daddies, grandfathers. Like how are you guys dealing with that? Are you reaping all the benefits or?
So where do you live? Where's this happening?
Mrs. Mack
what are the
won't let
airfares like to get? No.
I'm just saying, it's a good time to be you guys.
I'm not a grandpa, so I don't know about that. I'm still not a grandpa yet. So yeah, he's got 8 times now. 8.
Wow.
8, yeah. I've tried to tell him what causes that, but
I think it's an Alaska thing. I think
it's. I'm sorry. Well, I interrupted you. It was just that. Anyways.
Congratulations, though.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was. I had forgotten to tell Dex earlier, and
we're still trying to get through your first question, but you're interrupting over.
Technically,
and over,
it's the second question. Sorry.
It's his first question.
Oh no. Ever?
So again, your first your first character, the class, and the race, and why. There we go. I said it again.
Yeah, so I was playing vanilla. I had been playing Warcraft in all of its forms my whole life. My dad was a huge gamer, so he got me into that, thankfully. And my first character was a Tauren warrior, and I started playing WoW because I already liked Warcraft, and I liked the idea of an MMO. But I really just wanted to be a Tauren because I have this thing about cow people. I think they're really cool.
Cool. I'm not going to ask the origin of that.
They make great hamburger when you're done.
For cow people, I'm really not. Gonna,
maybe next time.
We're not going to delve that deep, but.
Oh no!
So
okay.
Prior to WoW, did you play any other MMOs? I know you said you played the other iterations of Warcraft,
mm-hmm.
But what about other MMOs?
Nope, not at all.
No. Oh.
No,
So, New World.
I had a really bad computer. It was terrible, and so I had been like a console player until then, and I was like running WoW on this like horrible computer, and like everything was slow. And do you remember like before flying, you'd go up a tower to get to a Zeppelin, and you'd have to like go around and around and around like up a staircase?
Right.
I was lagging so bad that like I would go in a straight line and then try to like turn to go around, but it would just like keep going, and then I'd fall off. So like I would always miss the Zeppelin. It was bad.
Right. So in 2004 was a little bit of a rough start in WoW, I imagine, with the demands on the computer and
absolutely.
And it being 2004 and you being in Canada, that was like. You guys were still on dial-up for about 10 years, I think, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Canada?
Yeah.
Something like that?
And, like, let me tell you, it's really hard to connect to the internet in an igloo on an ice floe, so.
Yeah. There you go. We actually we can joke about playing MMOs on dial-up because we did for a long time a previous game on
You're like
dial-up,
pioneers.
So it was not pretty. And,
my first modem was on my Commodore 64. So
What?
I'm kind of old.
He's not kind of old. His first computer was like a little Texas Instruments little calculator.
He's only got 8 grandchildren, so leave him alone.
He's getting kind of old. I have to keep reminding him what question he's on. But I'm texting him the whole time while we're talking, saying, "You're still on question 2. Relax."
Really? Are you guys sending photos as well?
Well,
you can send photos?
Yeah.
Don't confuse him with any new technologies he's not familiar with.
I'm sorry.
But, oh, wow.
Oh, man.
You're up, Mac. Question for you now.
So, what
This
realm
whole
do you...
talking to women thing, he's just not used to it.
I had something in my head I was going to say, and then I realized I can't say it on the podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
She can on hers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we should have you guys on our show. So
there we go.
you can tell me how you really feel.
I'm silly. Wow. I was picturing that. All of our listeners would immediately say, "You guys got to go explicit like right now."
Mm-hmm.
If they heard how we talk outside the show as far as language, it would be like,
yeah.
You
guys are hardcore.
Only when I hit my thumb with a hammer, yeah. So
a lot of dad nabbits.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're into, if that's a thing that you like to do, that's fine.
Yeah, shucky darns. Yeah,
Wow.
So there's what realm or realms do you play on, and do you prefer PvE or PvP?
I play in Boulder Fist US, and that's a PvP server, and I've been on that server since like 2008, I think, and before that, I had been on a PvP server. And I don't know, PvE servers are nice if you're trying to level up without worrying about things, I guess, but PvP servers, to me, it forces you to be more vigilant. It forces you to sort of immerse yourself in the gameplay a little bit more because of, like, you know, the tensions between the factions. I mean, that's a huge part of Warcraft in itself.
Right.
And I always tell people who are hesitant to join a PvP server, it builds character, you know, like it adds a little something. And a lot of people go online and complain about the game. I don't know if you know that, but you know, they do that sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. And so people will go on and complain about getting ganked and complain about being on a PvP server and all that. And yeah, sometimes that stuff happens and it's really annoying, but it doesn't happen all that often. It's not that big of a problem. And there are definitely things that you can do to negate that, like finding a great guild that will come to your aid, or like revenge your death or whatever. Or you just get really good at PvP and, you know, make them upset that they ever chose Alliance.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you said that, because I have run into that a lot. I play on PvP mostly, and I think there's a misconception there that people think that, oh, I'll never be able to complete a quest if I'm on PvP. It's going to be, you know, constantly fighting with other players,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really not.
No.
I mean, when you get down to it, it's infrequent, but like you said, it adds a level to the game. Actually, in our last show, when we were talking to Thorn, his feeling, what he expressed, was that it wasn't really about being able to PvP. It was just adding that level of that there's some danger there while you're trying to quest or raid or what have you. And,
but I do that by adding beverages to my, you know.
So,
you might, you know, who knows? You might spill it on your keyboard.
That's true. That would be even worse than getting ganked.
Well, it sounds like that you kind of share Thorn's view on that as far as the value of being on a PvP server. That's more adding that extra dimension to
Absolutely.
it.
And I like the feeling that, you know, I'm looking at an Alliance member, I'm looking him in the eyes, I'm targeting him, and I could kill him if I wanted to. Maybe I won't.
Right.
Maybe I'll spare him today. Maybe today's his lucky day.
You've got his destiny in your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It feels good.
it's a nice way to work out, you know, real life frustrations. You know, or I'm not saying this is the case for you.
No,
If in real
absolutely.
life you don't have power, you know.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think I've been playing WoW since vanilla?
It's like you've been secretly getting revenge on all the people that you work with, and
yeah, oh yeah,
so
yep.
So how would you classify yourself as a player? Would you say that you're kind of a hardcore raider, or are you more of a casual player, or are you somewhere in between? And I know you play on a PvP server, but is your focus more solo play, dungeon play with a group, or mainly raiding?
I'd say I'm like a hardcore, filthy softcore raider.
That's what it says on my business card, actually. That's amazing.
Really? Oh, wow. So we're on the same page.
Well, I mean, it does now. I mean,
You just scribbled it onto the Sharpie?
it says it right now. But, you can say
but what I mean by that, I guess, is I'm a heroic raider. I'm actually, for the first time, raiding with 2 teams. And so I'm raiding like 3 times a week. I don't know how many hours, like 8 hours a week devoted to hardcore raiding-ish.
Okay.
It's kind of like my main team. We're really good friends, and we are massive idiots, and we just get together to have fun, but we're kind of in between, like being really, really good and being mediocre good. So sometimes we'll be inspired to push harder than other times, and sometimes we'll just have raid nights that consist of us like kind of trying, but mostly just making fun of each other and voice. So it's kind of between there. But so I'd say I'm a PvE focused player. But this expansion, I just started focusing more on PvP, and I've been really enjoying it. And I'm not really good by any means, but I'm a lot better than I used to be, and I don't worry about world PvP anymore, let me just say, because
right.
People better watch out. But I think I'm at Prestige 6, and that's pretty good for me, I guess. I think Legion has made PvP a lot more accessible to people like me who just kind of kept it on the back burner for all these years.
Right.
And I've been taking advantage of it, and I love it. So, way to go, Legion.
Well, Blizzard did announce before Legion came out, when they were first talking about it, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a whole lot of talk about making PvP something that would be more attractive to people that hadn't experienced it. And they talked about how they wanted to quit, separating people into 2 camps, which is why they got rid of PvP gear specific,
exactly,
and things like that. So that was their goal, was to get people to try,
yeah, and
parts of the game
that definitely worked. I know that all of the hardcore PvP people weren't too happy about it, and they think it's broken, and they think that's why Holinka left, but that's not true. It's just opening the door a little wider for the rest of us.
Well, it's an MMO. They're always going to make adjustments and changes, and you can either roll with them, or you can figure that, well, that was it. That made it unplayable for me, if that's how you feel. But
quitters,
But anybody who's played an MMO for any length of time knows that the one thing that stays the same is that everything changes.
That's true.
There we go. So sometime during your gaming experience, you decided you want to make your podcast. On World of Warcraft. What inspired this, and at what point in your playing history did it happen?
I think it happened in WoD.
Okay.
I think. Like, it's funny to think of WoD as like back in the day now, because it kind of is. It's like, oh yeah, back in the day in Warlords. But yeah, I've always been a huge fan of podcasts, especially WoW and Blizzard podcasts. I've been listening to them forever. And I do have radio broadcasting background, so I knew how to do it. I just have a problem with like doing things, probably because I'm playing WoW so much. So it took a really long time to finally get around to it. And when it finally happened, it just kind of fell into place, like it was always meant to be happening. I don't know. It was like a weird thing. A weird creative thing, but yeah, I was lucky too, because Thorn has like a PR background. We both have a little bit of theater background as well, and we're both completely committed to the games that we're talking about. So and the nicest thing about the whole thing is that the content creation community surrounding Blizzard is insanely supportive and friendly and welcoming. And so, like, if you're serious about being a content creator within the Blizzard community, the doors are wide open. And there's a ton of people waiting to welcome you. So I think that was the best part.
Well, what's amazing is you guys started at a time when, and I think we touched on this a little bit with Thorn, but you guys started at a time when a lot of podcasts were fizzling out. We were seeing kind of a thinning of podcasts, and a lot of them that were around, a lot of them that I listened to before we started our show anyway, were kind of, let's say, really down on the game. And you would listen and you would think, you know, why are they doing it? Now, some of them decided, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cover other games at the same time. And there were a couple, one in particular that, you know, I'm not going to mention names, of course, but there was one in particular that I listened to that still kept their name as a World of Warcraft podcast, but they hadn't talked about World of Warcraft for over a year.
Yeah.
And they were talking about a completely different game. And if somebody found their podcast for the first time, they would be very confused.
Yeah.
But, there was a lot of negativity and a lot of hate for warlords.
Exactly. And that,
you know,
just, I don't want to devote an hour's worth of my time to a podcast about World of Warcraft that is like dumping all over my favorite game. Like
exactly.
That's not why I'm listening. So
yeah. It was hard to listen to, especially one in particular that I listened to was I really enjoyed, and it's like something switched in the person, and they stopped liking it, stopped playing, wanted to still make a podcast, and so just switched to another game. And I have to feel like their audience must have completely changed, because I can't imagine doing that. I mean, if Mac and I just all of a sudden tomorrow decided we wanted to make a podcast about another game, we better make a different podcast and with a different name and all of that, I think, because if we just kept on with this, and then it was about the My Little Pony MMO next week, I think people would
do you have a
that.
podcast about that?
I think people would say, I always knew. I mean, people would be sitting back going, I had a feeling.
So you are a brony. I knew it.
Well, it's
both of you.
I don't like labels.
Sorry.
I mean, Matt got the tattoo, so he's.
Oh, really?
It.
So you've got a cutie mark on your side.
I'm still resistant. I'm really resistant.
Do you prefer brony or Pegasister? Because
what do you think, Mac? What do you prefer?
Oh, man.
Let's bring you into this. Since we're talking about you, we might as well, bring you into the conversation.
Well, I just figured we could go on to another question. I'm very evasive in the subject. Yeah.
Okay. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like to talk about it. In Alaska, it's not accepted like it is here in California.
Oh, okay. Well, after the show, like if you guys want to talk about, friendship is magic, you have no idea how much I know on the subject. So.
Oh my God! My daughter watches that, so
I love subcultures. I like to learn about them, and I think not that this has anything to do with anything, but I think the brony culture is particularly interesting. And
it's Goblin Goldcast. We talk about all kinds of shit here. So
yes.
Damn it! I got to bleep now. But anyway,
you did it, not me. You're expecting me to do it, but I didn't. You did it.
Yeah. I do it once in a while.
Yes, subculture. Now that's Navy talking about underwater. No,
see, there you go with the dad jokes. Again, grandpa jokes actually. All right. So okay, so I think it's on me now. Is that why you didn't jump in there and ask a question because you're waiting for me, Matt?
I think so.
Is that why you felt trapped?
Well, I just figured you were gonna nail me with something else. So
You guys, the innuendos on the show are insane.
Well, that's all we've got. We don't have an explicit podcast. We can't take the easy
I know, but it's driving me crazy. It's rude. Should have warned me.
See, now Mac, you've offended our guest.
Oh, I'm not offended.
And Thorne told us that was impossible. So
what's the opposite of offended?
Something that we can't say on this show.
Yeah, that's probably it.
So when did you realize this podcasting thing was kind of taking off and really working for you? The kind of aha moment that you weren't just talking to 5 people?
I think it was when people on Twitter started repeating my jokes back to me. And not even like jokes, but like just dumb things that I'd said and not necessarily even picked up on, even though I was editing them. I think that was it, but more so I think it was just I'd heard, like, everybody had told me that if you can get past like 10 shows, you're probably going to be fine. And if you can get past 25 shows, then you're definitely, you're okay. And it never became something that felt like a chore. It never became something that felt like I didn't want to do it. And I'm so lazy and I procrastinate like crazy and I just want to play WoW. And finally, like, I found something that let me channel all my energy and creativity and love for Blizzard into this one thing. And I think, people repeating my jokes back to me is, just a kind of indicator of how amazing everybody is in this community. And ultimately, like, that's the best part of podcasting is just the people you meet and the friends that you make. Oh
yeah, there's nothing in the world like somebody quoting you to you. And there have been times that I have had that feeling, and then I realized, oh no, I stole that joke from somewhere else. People are repeating a joke that somebody made before. But I convinced myself for a little while that it was my original joke.
I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as an original joke anymore. So
nothing new under the sun.
Exactly.
Well, we're old enough that we can say stuff
Especially
that people now. Yeah.
Definitely.
We'll say a joke that we know from years ago, and people start busting up and think it's original. You guys, where'd you come up with that? It was like,
that's your prerogative. You've earned that.
Oh my god.
Oh. All right.
I think she just said that we have senior benefits. I'm not sure.
That is not what I said.
Just said.
But that is true.
The little blue pill discount, right?
Oh, the ageism. She's an ageist.
I am not.
Everybody hear that? She is anti-old.
I was just saying the other day on my show that Soldier 76 is the hottest Overwatch character out of all of the Overwatch characters. Take from that what you will.
I don't play that game, but I understand. Is 76 his age?
It could be.
Could be. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I did play a little Overwatch, and it's too much like PvP, and I get ganked all the time. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, was that game that you used to play with that little girl that was always showing her butt? Oh. Is that game you were playing? You always played that character?
What?
What was it called? Tracer or something like that? Is that game?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah, he said because he liked to follow behind her.
Oh, yeah. Tracer has a great butt. Oh, yeah. She's definitely the second hottest.
I don't know anything about the game, so I might be getting it all wrong.
No, you're right.
Am I right?
There was a big controversy about her butt at the beginning. Nobody cares anymore, but it was a big thing then.
Is that what you meant by screenshots before it's gone, Mac? Is that what you meant?
What are you screenshotting?
Pieces are coming together for me on things that I was completely lost on before. I had no idea what he was talking about.
He's just putting words in my mouth. You know this, don't you?
You're letting him.
Well, I'm sitting here laughing. Oh, my God. Okay. So, Des, why don't you tell us about the philosophy of your podcast? When people listen to your podcast, what do you want them to come away from your podcast with?
We initially set out to make a podcast that sounded like how we talk to our guildmates in voice chat. And we assume that that's how most people talk to people while they're gaming. You know, like you talk to your friends, you trash talk them, you laugh about terrible things, you share jokes and memes and photos and things like that. So we kind of just wanted to bring what we knew as gamers to this podcast. And so that did include and it does include swearing and off-color jokes and dirty jokes and things like that. But that's just kind of what we find funny, and we didn't really want to start this thing and work really hard in it and pour ourselves into it if it wasn't, something we believed in. But the caveat to that always had to be that this podcast has to be a positive Blizzard podcast. Like, it has, like, if we have complaints and stuff like that, which we hardly ever, actually maybe never, we love Blizzard so much that we're just perpetually delighted by everything that they come up with. So we wanted to make sure that, like, despite the swearing and the bad jokes and the not safe for workness, it's always going to be completely positive. Because if somebody's going to listen to the show because they want to hear about Blizzard games, they probably like Blizzard games. So just thinking that might be a thing. So we've been able to stick to that completely. And I mean, it's a great outlet for me because I am the biggest Blizzard fangirl maybe ever.
Well, I think it's great to go in with the philosophy that you're going to be true to yourself, that you're going to make a podcast about what you want to do and what you enjoy and what you find entertaining. And if, what you find, I think, is if you're enjoying yourself, if you're having a good time, that's going to be contagious. It's going to be infectious. People are going to be attracted to that. And if they're not, then they're not your audience, really, I think.
Exactly.
So, it's kind of it solves all the problems there. And what you said about being positive, I totally get that. What we've done in our show, we've taken a couple of shots sometimes where we've said, we feel like this was a mistake or that was a mistake. But overall, we try to keep things in a positive direction and, and counterbalance it so that, for us, our philosophy would be more like we just want to be truthful about how we feel about everything. And obviously, since we're still here and we're still doing it, it's more positive than negative. So that's kind of the way that we've gone.
We love the game. There are certain things about it that when we have an issue, we'll point it out. I mean, the benefits, definitely are better than the positives are better than the negatives. It's kind of like marriage. Mrs. Mack might disagree.
Is that what you call her?
Oh,
is that what you call her? She used to have a regular name, and then he got he started doing a podcast, and all of a sudden her name changed.
Oh, because you're famous. I get it.
So in it.
Okay.
So it's not because he's trying to keep her anonymous. It's that she said, "You better keep me anonymous."
Oh, okay, I get it. I was
more
confused.
along that.
I don't want to be associated with you, sort of thing. It's kind of like
kind of a connection.
Yeah, kind of like when we go out in public. There's too many times where we'll be standing in line in a grocery store and I'll just spout off something, and to somebody that is talking to somebody else that has nothing to do with our conversation. I just include myself in their conversation. Everyone around us busts up. She covers her head and her face in her hands.
Why are you doing that to her?
Yeah, and it sucks that they have to take they have to take separate dog sleds everywhere they go.
Aww.
Traveling the same one. That was a little toofer with the little Alaska thing thrown in.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that.
But she is awesome. I love her to death. She says death would be preferable.
Is she standing behind you right now, or what's going on?
She is with a baseball bat. Every podcast, she stands behind him. You always know when she gives him that glare because he says, "Yeah, my wife, she's a wonderful woman." And then you hear a sigh of relief, and then you hear a door close, and then everything goes back to normal.
For another night.
Till the next day.
No. He's as Dex has mentioned many times in the show, his wife doesn't listen. My wife does because she's an awesome person, and she does play the game too. So, which is another awesome.
Well,
thing.
that makes her exceptionally awesome.
I only have to get WoW tokens for one person, me.
Well, she's also raided a few times with the Lion's Pride Tavern, which I'm still trying to get my co-host to level his tune so he can do that.
I'm telling you, I've set up. I'm up to 105 on that Alliance character I play until the nausea is just too bad. I have to stop. I do the best that I can. So.
Wow, anyway. I can't even imagine. Ugh.
And get this, Night Elf Hunter.
What? Are you a 12-year-old boy? Like,
I
what's...
almost did the green hair. I almost went there.
I feel like I want to like shoot you with fireballs right now.
I wanted to make sure that I made something that even after we were all done and it was 110 and I had legendaries. Okay, well, who am I kidding? I'm not going to have legendaries.
I'm going to waste good legendaries on an alliance character.
I won't have a problem deleting the character.
He hasn't been able to get any. I'm sorry, he's got one legendary.
I did get one legendary.
That's a waste of a legendary.
The RNG gods hate him. So bad.
Alliance. What do you expect?
It's ugly.
I'm talking about his horde too.
No.
The majority of my tunes
are horde. Trust me.
Yeah, the majority of my tunes are horde.
Good.
And
I knew I liked you guys.
Play in a horde server. Well, it was. There's another podcast invited us to come raid with them because we had mentioned we're not raiders, and then they discovered later on that we were not alliance players, and so I made an alliance tune level just to be able to raid with them because I'm not a raider, and well, I guess I am now. But,
yeah, you are.
I wasn't.
I think the fact that I'm up to 105 is a pretty stiff feat. Okay.
Yeah, I could never do that.
And I only boosted to 100, so
he's made the entire 5 levels.
So I think I'm doing pretty good. But anyway, back to our 3-hour podcast. Your podcast has been running for, as I understand it, a little over 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, somewhere in the neighborhood of 113 episodes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've been running for about a year now, a little over a year now.
Congrats.
And we've seen some changes. Oh, thank you. We've seen some changes in our format just in that time. So I imagine there have been some changes along the way, especially as the editor of the podcast. You've probably seen things that you wanted to change and made adjustments. Can you tell us what significant changes, if any, that have happened to your podcast in the last 2 years?
Absolutely. We used to record on the bathroom floor next to the toilet. On an old laptop with one headset. So eventually, with the help of some amazing patrons on Patreon, we got mics and stuff and upgraded from the bathroom to a different room. So that was nice. But as far as our format goes, honestly, it has hardly changed at all in the past 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think we just have a good thing going, I guess.
Right.
Not really any complaints on the format, so that's good. We are working on relying less on reporting news and focusing more on how we feel about the news instead. And aside from that, we're always working towards expanding the show. We recently started a weekly live stream that's kind of separate from the show itself, where we just pick a topic and talk about it, and it's kind of interactive because chat can say things, and since it's not going to be a podcast, we don't have to ignore people, so we can have an open discussion with people. And so we've had 2 episodes of that so far, and it's going really well. And we've got a really lively Discord server that we just started up, which is amazing, and our guild is always open to everyone who wants to join. So I guess as far as the podcast goes, it's pretty much been chugging along the same way for 2 years, but we're expanding, and it's amazing. And it's amazing because of the people that listen and who they are, and just how wonderful and silly they are. Because the funny thing is, when you make a weird, silly podcast, weird, silly people kind of come up out of the woodwork, and those are the best kinds of people to hang out with. So. Yeah. Well,
I think I can safely speak for all 3 of us when I say that we're nothing without our listeners. That's what. Oh, definitely. That's what makes it happen. And I'm sure you've got great listeners just like we do. We really appreciate the feedback that we get. Some interesting feedback at times. And it's a lot of fun to deal with.
Sometimes I get feedback from the other room. I'm not sure I really appreciated you talking about that during the podcast. No.
And if you think she doesn't like what he says in the podcast. But
you really need to talk to that Dex guy.
But then again, I don't have to fall asleep in the same room as her, so
Never sleep.
I'm good.
Keep one eye open.
She knows where the cutlery is. So if there's every player in the game has to support their tunes. They need a sugar daddy,
Oh, are you offering, or would that be a sugar grandpa?
Oh, sugar grandpa. There we go. They have to pay for the repairs, your transmogs.
I like how you skirted that. That was great.
Mrs. Mac listens.
It's the clip anyway, Mac. I'm sorry, it's the clip. So no. Go ahead.
How do you make gold in the game to support your tunes? Well, I figured you had Reckles in your guild, so anyways.
I do. Honestly, I don't know how I make gold. I just kind of play the game, and there it is. I'm not really a gold maker. It's never been a huge issue for me, only when I don't have enough for things. I used to be really into, like back in the day, I used to be really into buying pets, and then I got kind of tired of that. And then I used to be really into buying transmog on the auction house. And then I started running things instead of buying things, and that kind of evened that out. So, and then, with consistent rating, it's kind of easy. Consistent rating and doing dungeons, and especially with like Mythic Plus dungeons and world quests and follower quests, like I'm making consistent gold. But it's not something that I kind of think about, I guess. So.
With as much as I dirt nap when I raid, that rating gets expensive on the repairs.
It does, and the thing about that is I'm extremely lucky. I have this amazing guild, and everybody is willing to make things and help out and stuff like that. So I just, I contribute by like buying herbs and whatever people need, putting it all into the guild bank, and then people give me things if I need them. So.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a special treatment kind of thing, I guess. I understand that it's not like that for everybody, and it certainly wasn't like that for me, like this entire time. But during this expansion, it's been pretty cool.
Well, I mean, and I know I'm saying this, and we have a gold making podcast, so I'm about to say this, but realistically, just from questing and running, doing the world quest and things like that pop up. For the average person and, for your repairs and just your everyday life kind of things in game that you need, you're going to do okay. You're going to be fine.
Absolutely.
Really. But if the people that really concentrate on gold making either have they either have a desire for battle pets or mounts or transmog. It's going to fall into one of those three categories, or as a possible fourth category now, they want to be able to buy tokens, whether it's to use in other games, which definitely has its value, which you can do now, or just to pay for their gaming time. But yeah, unless you're wanting to do one of those things, you're going to have enough gold to do your regular stuff. I mean, most of our listeners are, either avid mount collectors or they're doing a lot of transmog.
Sure.
I think usually you see a lot of that, but yeah.
Yeah, so. No, totally right. And I've been getting along fine in my 13 years by just playing the game and not really worrying about it. So, and worst comes to worst, you can always take off all of your transmog and run around Orgrimmar and ask for gold.
There you go. Well, you can.
Yeah. Hey, we can all be.
Oh, you got it. Well, yeah, okay.
We can all be girls.
I mean, yeah, this is true. But you can say, "Get on Skype, I'll prove it." I can't.
I mean,
man, she's got a really deep voice. I mean,
there's no guy that's going to be able to fake your voice.
I'm a girl in real life.
Prove it and then,
But how am I going to prove it though? Because, like we said, is there gender anymore? Like, what's going on? I might just be an extremely beautiful man.
I was going to cut all that out.
Well, you can't now.
Of the show. I can't now. I don't like getting letters like that. Because you can't say things like that without getting letters where people say all kinds of stuff.
All right, fine.
And I'm afraid of my listeners.
Oh, well, you should be.
No, actually, our listeners are great. I get all these letters. You know what? You're way too easy on Mac. You should really be harder on Mac. Is he really that old? Does he ever stop drinking? Things like that.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Only half of those email addresses can be linked back to me, too. All right. So, Mac, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to skip question 11 because it's irrelevant. She's already responded to that. So you go on with your next question.
So, what was your biggest win in the game, gold making or otherwise?
As far as gold making goes, one time, years ago, I was standing in Orgrimmar with all of my gear on, shockingly, and some random dude came over and tried to trade me 20 grand, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, just take it. And I'm like, I can't take that. What are you doing? And he's like, I'm leaving the game. I'm like, well,
I just hacked this account. And
yeah.
No, people do that though when they're done playing. They give away all their gold.
Yeah. And I'm like, why me? And he's like, I just saw you. I think you're Mog's school. Just take it. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. So that was that. And
you changed. You corrected yourself really quickly on the fly. I heard that.
I know what Mog you had. Which Mog you had now. I guess using the expression "I was fully clothed" is being used kind of loosely there.
I mean, isn't it usually?
Well, okay. I'm just saying. I mean, for people that haven't messed with the transmog, they might picture you in actual armor. At this
right.
Time, and I
am really good at transmog. I will admit.
I like transmog. Max not so. I mean, until recently he played around with it a little bit, but he was always making fun of it before.
What?
He's always saying it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it functions.
That's not true.
And I asked him how that's working out. Remember, it's our show, not yours. You can't say what you want to say right now.
I'm just saying. If you look good, you feel good, and you play good. So I'll just leave it at that. And that goes for IRL too.
For me, it was the Project Runway thing. It was always I didn't really care, and then I got this really stupid mask on my shaman. First time in MMOs since EverQuest that I was like, I need to get something to change that look.
You were embarrassed to go out of the house in the armor that you had on. That's how it starts for all of us. Every woman I've ever met went on her first real big shopping spree when she got up, got dressed, and said, I can't go out of the house wearing this.
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, that's how it always starts,
yeah,
right?
But then I just don't leave the house and just play WoW instead, so...
I can't go into Orgrimmar looking like this.
What if the trolls see me like this, you know?
What will the trolls think?
Oh, man. So,
they've told me in trade chat. Sorry, different troll.
So this next question, your co-host is really concerned what your answer is going to be to this one. So, I just, he's a little worried.
Oh.
I just want to put that out there.
Okay.
So tell us about your biggest oops moment in the game. We've all had one. What stands out as something you'd really like to have a take back on?
I think I know what he's talking about, but I have a bigger one. And it's actually, it seems...
You can tell both of them because I was making it up anyway, but go ahead. I was fishing and I actually caught something. It was awesome.
You did? Yeah. Have you guys ever accidentally pulled a boss in Raid?
Yes. With my stupid demon hunt.
Yeah, I'd never done that before, and the first time I ever did it was in Mogushon Vaults. It was Fang the Accursed, and you know how you get there and he's kind of up on a raised platform and everybody has to get in because there's a gate that goes up as soon as you touch him? I locked out half the raid. And
so it was a bad touch.
It was very bad. It was so bad. And it doesn't matter now, obviously, but just how embarrassed I was and how bad I felt, and I just felt so dumb, and I realized that I hadn't been paying attention, and from that moment, like that's a huge moment in my life, I guess, because I realized that you have to be paying attention when you're playing like with other people, especially in Raid, especially when you're all trying really hard and spending a lot of time out of their day working on it and spending a lot of gold getting there. So, yeah, that still makes me cringe. I mean, it was an honest mistake, but it was like the worst honest mistake.
But there were probably people that wouldn't let you forget about it for a little while.
Oh, absolutely. They said, because a few other people had done it before, and the joke was that they had the like club jackets. So they're like, oh, give this their jacket. No, oh, great. That's a thing now.
I was with the Lion's Pride Tavern. They were streaming, and everyone was kind of jumping up and down in place, and I was jumping up and down, and I'm on my Demon Hunter. So the second time I hit my space bar, my wings went out, and I face pulled the boss. It was like, oh crap!
Like literally face pulled.
I flew right into him. It was like, son of it! It's that mad guy.
I bet they weren't even mad.
That's really cute, though.
I bet they were laughing so hard they weren't even mad.
It's like Demon Hunters are the new regular hunters.
Oh yeah. Demon
we
Hunter.
all remember the first time we heard the term Hunter.
Yes.
Somebody was talking to us, right?
Yep.
Now they just say Mac.
Aw. It's like, oh, you pulled a Mac.
Yeah. Oh man.
14.
Oh, this is mine. Yeah.
I can edit that, so I can edit the things I just said. Go ahead, Matt.
So this is for the new player out there, Thist. If you were starting over from scratch today, how would you begin? What method would you use to level and progress your characters?
I would spam dungeons. Honestly, it's so easy to find a group nowadays. I am not a fan of leveling. I don't really have any alts. I'm kind of addicted to being OP, so I don't like starting over. But when I do, and when I did, it was spamming dungeons. And back in the day, it was insanely difficult and time consuming, especially to find a group to do anything. But nowadays it's so simple, like it's ridiculously simple. So, if you are looking to level something new, just go into dungeon, spec for, whatever the dungeon might need, and just keep running them, because you will level up so quickly, and it's going to be so easy for you to find a group.
Group Finder is awesome.
Oh, yeah. I noticed the difference at the higher end. Once you're in Legion, I noticed the difference between traditional questing and doing the demon invasions. It's just a massive difference in the amount of experience that you get from it.
Absolutely.
To the point to where I didn't want to level the other one. It's like I would wait until Mac had time to come by on his flying mount because, I'm not going to run anywhere.
Yeah.
And, just go to the demon invasions and knock out a couple of levels and nothing flat.
Absolutely.
And I'm still
he doesn't answer my texts.
Aww.
Demon invasion going on now. Come on.
You don't know that.
You guys have to be nicer to each other, or your marriage isn't going to last. Just saying.
I know, and I keep telling him that.
Bickering like an old married couple.
He's just not caring like he used to be.
Oh, do we need to talk about this? Do we need to take a time out from WoW and just talk about your relationship?
We need an intervention on this, I think.
Oh, wow.
Well, I just don't think that he appreciates me anymore.
Oh, honey.
I'm just...
He's very hurt all the time, yeah.
Is it because you're in a long-distance relationship with somebody who's also married to someone else who's threatening him with a baseball bat constantly, who also has 8 grandchildren? Is that why?
That's pretty much
that's part of it.
That's a little part of it. It's part of the story. It's
you poor thing, dealing with so much.
Oh my God. So. So is there a piece of advice you'd like to pass on to our listeners? Maybe something that we haven't botched so far?
You mean like Warcraft stuff, or like life in general?
No, just kind of the love line stuff. I mean, that might be before your time, but
yeah, no, I have no idea what you're talking about.
The little advice column on the radio. It's like normally we have a disclaimer at the beginning that we talked about this, and this, and we got around to talking about gold for 5 minutes. This one's going to be, we talked about all these things, and we got around to talking about World of Warcraft for 5 minutes. You know.
Well, it's just clear to me that you guys have a lot of issues that you need to work out, and so.
Well, yeah. It's, I mean, when he has 8 grandkids and I have none, there's issues right there.
Absolutely. Do you feel inadequate? Is that the problem here? Is like the underlying problem?
Not usually.
Are you upset that he's not sharing those grandchildren? Like he has so many.
Not at all. I've met them.
His oldest is older than mine. I mean.
Yeah, but you've got some to
Is he
spare.
sure it works?
Right. But see,
you got to share.
When my oldest was born, I sat him down and we had a talk.
When he was born?
No, not when he was born. Did I say when he was born?
Yeah,
you said when he was born.
Wow, he must be really smart.
he
talks. Understood what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
It was more therapeutic for me than anything
I was
else.
so ready to believe that. It's like, now that you're born, I need you to know something.
Yeah, don't be like your dad.
Certain facts were made clear to him that evidently your kids didn't get the memo. Okay, so I'm just
Ooh,
saying.
Shots fired.
I know his kids. I knew his kids when they were little, so it's
I knew them before they were cool. So
they will not forgive him for anything, but they'll forgive me for anything.
Oh, good, because you're like cool stepdad
yeah,
kind
I'm
of thing.
X, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Yep.
We're gonna go with uncle.
Yeah.
Wow. So much to edit out. So much to edit
What? This is gold. Are you kidding me?
Oh, no, I'll give you a version that has everything, but
Oh, man.
The copyright infringements alone.
Should I sing something? What's your favorite band? Let's do this.
You probably don't
make sure
remember.
if I put it on YouTube that I completely get demonetized, too. Let's make sure.
Yeah. Who needs real money when you can make gold?
That's right. Well, it's almost like what do they compare it to? What is it?
Did you ever give us a piece of advice? Or
No.
Did you just
I just let you guys go. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I actually have some really good WoW advice, though.
Why don't you give us some WoW advice?
Sure. My advice would be to try everything. WoW is a beautiful, multifaceted game full of things to do, and you should try a little of everything and find out what clicks for you. And not just like, PvE versus PvP, not just class and spec and race and faction, but like pet battling, gold making, doing absolutely nothing, just walking around the world and looking at things, like whatever. Try it all.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find something eventually that is so much fun, and you're going to want to play it for years, and having friends in game is only going to enhance whatever it is that you've found. And once you have that, just know that there's like a million other things that you can try that you can like keep on the back burner. Like for me, I'd been playing within a PvP realm for years, but never really tried it, and now I have, and I love it. But it's not something that I just didn't want to do. It's just something that I hadn't gotten to yet, because that's the beauty of WoW. You can kind of just sort of make it your own, I guess. So I'm a firm believer in that it's impossible to be bored in World of Warcraft if you stay open-minded.
And people say that too, and you find out all the things they haven't tried. That people lose sight of how sandboxy it really is. I think, it's. I mean, there's a lot. You're right. There's a lot to do, and
there's a lot of ways to spice up the game.
Exactly.
Wait.
Now there is.
Yeah, Moonguard, Goldshire, RP Realm.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I've done that a few times. It was great. It was weird, but it was great.
Don't encourage him.
Sorry.
I was expecting something from your end when I said that.
I gotta share.
I was trying to lob one over the plate for him.
I don't normally do this, but I gotta share this with everybody.
Ooh.
Every once in a while, he gives me a really funny one. I gotta read this text to you. Is there a My Little Pony transmog? I just. Sorry, man. I gotta out you. That's funny.
That's adorable.
That's good. That's good. I'll work on that. Maybe our listeners can give you some advice.
Oh my god.
So, all right, Mac. I know you're anxious to get this moving, so I'll let you.
All right. If this, besides your podcast, there are many others out there devoted to bring people World of Warcraft content. Would you like to single anyone out well worth a shout out to? Feel free to name a few. Someone you'd classify as a must-interview person for our podcast.
Sure. My favorite person in the whole entire Blizzard universe is Ian Hazacostas. He is beautiful and smart and talented, and he's the best thing that ever happened to the game. So if you could get an interview with him, I would recommend it. But within the realm of content creators, I guess I would shout out Ro from the Realm Maintenance podcast, because he's basically the guru, I guess you'd say, of Blizzard content creators, podcasters specifically. You guys know Ro, right?
Oh, we've been on his show. He's been on ours.
Yeah, like he's just... Yeah. He's all knowing.
We had to invite him first, So
we got what? What was that?
I said we had to invite him first,
Yeah, we joked about that.
He's a busy guy. He's a busy guy, but he's everywhere. He's all knowing, and he's like the guy at the door, like welcoming you into this amazing community. And as a new podcaster back in the day, like 2 years ago, he was like the first one to make us feel validated and important, and he does that for every new Blizzard podcast. So he definitely deserves, all the shout outs that he can get. So that's...
Oh yeah, Ro's awesome.
I can vouch for that. A little over a year ago, he was very nice to a couple of jackasses trying to make a gold making podcast. So I can,
who were they?
I can definitely vouch for that. I don't know.
No, he did when he mentioned us. Our that was like the first time our numbers went boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah,
it was
he
awesome.
gave us a nice little boost when he mentioned us.
Absolutely, he's got the magic touch, and he's got his finger on the pulse. You know what I'm saying? Like he's everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Mrs. Mack had her finger on the pulse once, and I had to pry the fingers off of my carotid artery. But
is that what you call it?
With the baseball bat.
Yeah.
That's not what that is, Mac.
That's a weird name for that. I think you've got your parts mixed up.
My anatomy wrong.
I have a feeling she's heard a lot of euphemisms for that, and this is a new one.
That is so new.
I'm gonna guess.
Oh,
thank you for that one.
Man.
I'm gonna use that on my show. Except I don't have to. I can just say what it is on my show. It's great.
That's right. You don't have to use euphemisms,
No.
But it can be fun to do that.
It
causes you to be more creative and come up with new and interesting ways to.
She's got her finger on my epic staff, and my legendary pants are dropping.
That is?
Yeah.
See how much better that is? That's completely okay on our show. We're fine.
Really? Okay, great.
Oh yeah. That's great. It's just for some reason there are just certain words that are not okay.
Sure.
But you can say things way worse in another way, and it's fine. It's a great world. Anyway, we never claimed to be kid friendly. We just said that we didn't want to have an explicit.
Sure. Yeah. I'm struggling. I'm trying really hard.
All right.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
Well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on the show, and as advertised by your co-host, you kept us in stitches. So we've really enjoyed this, and I'm sure our listeners will really enjoy it.
I hope
well.
so.
Oh, I'm sure we will definitely let you know.
So if people want to listen to your show or get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Do you think they would?
They might.
I'm not sure about that. But
I'm positive.
If they do, you can find everything at laggingballs.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, as well as a bunch of other places that just kind of picked us up, which is kind of neat. It's nice. I don't do any work about it. It's good. We do live stream every Friday. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/laggingballs. And you can find me at Thist03 on Twitter and pretty much everywhere else. And if you type in Lagging Balls into the Google search bar, we are not responsible for what you may or may not see. So do that at your well.
I'm gonna totally do that right now.
I mean, yeah.
Just don't type in lugging.
Yeah. Because that could be bad.
Anyway.
Well, I think that's going to about wrap up this week's episode. I'd like to thank Schaefer Bates for his awesome work as the Goblin voice at the beginning of each show. Also, Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme music, Hot Rock, licensed under Creative Commons.
And if you'd like to get a hold of us, you can contact us at Mac, that's MAC, at GoblinGoldcast.com, or Dex, that's DEX, at GoblinGoldcast.com. We have an alternate email, MacGoblinGoldcast at gmail.com. You can contact us on Twitter, at GoblinGoldcast, or you can visit us on Facebook.
And if you'd like to support the show, don't forget to visit the swag store at cafepress.com/Goblin Goldcast. And you can leave us a voicemail on our website, GoblinGoldcast.com. And please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Player FM if you listen to us there.
And we'll see you next week.
Now go make some gold.
Your first drummer was
the Beeper. John Stumpy Pepys. Oh, yeah. Great, tall, blonde geek with glasses.
Yeah. Good drummer.
Great look, good drummer. Good drummer. Fine.
What happened to him?
He died. He died in a bizarre gardening accident some years back.
It's really one of those things. It was, the authorities said, best leave it unsolved, really. And he was replaced by
Stumpy Joe. Eric Childs.
And what happened to Stumpy Joe?
Well, it's not a very pleasant story, but he died. He choked on the official explanation was he choked on vomit.
It was actually someone else's vomit. It's not
ugly.
There's no real.
Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was. They don't have facilities in Scotland Yard to print.
You can't really dust for vomit.